Tell African stories, they would say, but then at what cost? This question occurred to me while I visited Nigeria. No, I was in Nigeria for 3 weeks and I spent most of my time telling stories, either through landscape, area documentary, and documenting sport events. But and which I must say was very interesting. I've been someone who has been away from the photography space in Nigeria for like 3 years since I relocated to United Kingdom. I visited Nigeria for the first time after 2 years. That was last year. But then when I visited, I couldn't do much. But that was when I came up with the idea of actually, turning up in Nigeria to do some documentary and tell some stories within my own capacity. And this year, when I was planning to visit Nigeria, I already made solid plans to do some documentary work, especially area documentary. I spent most of my time in the city of Ibadan, just flying drones and creating some wonderful landscapes around the city, and which really felt good as it was one of the things I wanted to do. It was one of the ideas I'd been exposed to living in the United Kingdom for like 3 years. I've came across works of creatives and you feel like this can be easily replicated in Africa and for me basically Nigeria because I've traveled around the United Kingdom, tried to tell stories, tried to make videos, trying to vlog, and I just felt like it would also be good if I could do things like this in Nigeria anytime I get to visit Nigeria. So going to Nigeria this time, when I got to Nigeria, while I was still trying to settle down, I got a call from a friend who was a sports journalist, and he was like, "Oh, Nigeria is going to be playing a match in Uyo. That you should be there since you love sports and you're just trying to get into sports photography. This is going to be a good way for you to familiarize yourself with the sports photography ecosystem in Nigeria," and which I did. So I got on a plane from Lagos to Uyo. And okay, I'd already asked him what about accreditation. He said all I needed was just show up with your professional camera and you get accredited. And so I was really interested. I was really feeling it and I wanted to do this. So I got on a plane to Uyo. This is where it gets interesting. This match was going to happen on a Tuesday and I was advised to get to Uyo on a Saturday preceding that Tuesday, which means I have to spend Saturday, Sunday, Monday in EU before eventually getting to document that match on a Tuesday. I was wondering why, because I documented matches in the United Kingdom. All I needed was to show up on the match day. I get my accreditation via email after sending them my license and public liability insurance. Then I get my accreditation done via email. Then I show up on the match day at my own chosen time, maybe 2 hours before the match. Then you start documenting what you need to do. But then we had to get to Rio like 3 days before the match, and this was the reason. Now, it says number one, it's good to familiarize myself because it's definitely a new ecosystem, and number two was that the players will be training will get a chance to also document their training and blah 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 to be interesting. Then on a Monday, which was the day before the match day, then the accreditation is going to be done. Everything has been planned, and to give it to them everything that seems to be a timetable. But we got to you Saturday and the players were already training. Then we tried to go to the camp to see what we can do. They said no entry. Like the team is not allowing any it's not allowing media entry into the camp. So we can't do anything. Wow. Okay. It felt like Saturday was not the official training date which was communicated. Then we felt like okay, something was going to happen on Sunday. Then as Sunday came, we were already preparing to go for training, and we were told the team has officially announced that no, like journalists, anything related to media will not be entertained. Like they want the players to be focused. I'm like, wow. Like when you knew this, you could have told everybody because man, how people came all around the country. media journalists, photojournalists, sports writer, sports reporter, they came around to you just for this, just to tell their own story about this match. And one of the key things of building up your story about this match is having access to the training ground and see what's happening so they can report back to their various brands. But then everybody's getting this shocker that no media access. I feel like this could have been communicated way earlier. Even like so people will have been able to cut down their itinerary and do other things with their time. Like imagine I should be documenting a match on Saturday for a Nigerian Premier League club in Ibadan, which is um 3SC Oluyole Warriors. But because I felt the Nigerian World Cup qualifiers match happening in Rio is definitely way bigger. It's international. Then that was going to be a good. That's going to be good, and that's going to be valuable for my portfolio. So I went to Rio. Now they want gone, they two gone, nothing done. We were just there, sitting dogs, waiting there like headless chicken. And so that come Monday, which was slated for press conference, and the best thing the best they could allow us to do was to document to well only so the best they could allow us to do was allow us access the team's training after the press conference for just 15 minutes. That was the only thing we were allowed before the match on Tuesday. Now, after then, that comes accreditation. Everything changed. People started struggling for accreditation. Apparently, there were known faces there who are well known, who has immersed their own time, energy, and resources into documenting football in Nigeria, and so they got the passes, they got the accreditation done. But and again, even people who had no business to be beside the pitch, they got accreditation to go close to the pitch. Then here comes photographers with 150 to 600 lenses, and they're not getting accreditation. So we were asked to come back the following day, which was the match day. So on the match day, the match was supposed to happen around something around 5 p.m. And normally, if the match was going to happen around 5 p.m., you as the photographer will get there maybe 2 3 hours before the match. But because we don't have accreditation yet, myself and some of my guys, we had to like get there before way early. We got to the stadium around 10, looking for the guys in charge of the accreditation. We just had to sit down there because imagine having spent Saturday, Sunday, Monday, then after you have to spend Tuesday again, which was the main day. You wouldn't want to give it a chance, whereby this is Nigeria. You might end up not getting it, because apparently when everybody was told to come back um on Tuesday for the accreditation, it appears that almost all the guys that matters, they're right there already got the accreditation, which way I do not know. Then I look at just for one single match, we spending money on accommodation, spending money on feeding, spending time we could be using to do other things. Now you're not allowed to even do what you came to do just because of the way some people want to handle their things. So, eventually we got the accreditation. Then the match happened, documented the match. It was fun. It was fun, even though Nigeria did not win, which I was really, I was really devastated that Nigeria did not win because I felt like it was too stressful. It was too stressful coming to you to document that match. Was too stressful. Costed a lot in terms of money, time, and energy. I just felt like the least the team could have done was to give everyone a win, which never happened. And what again? So I just look at now. I flew in from the United Kingdom to come to Nigeria to tell a Nigerian story, to tell an African story, but at what cost? Another incident that happened, which speaks to me about the cost of telling African story, was instances where I have to fly my drone. Now, if you want to fly a drone in Nigeria, it's a different thing about you having a license and a different thing about you getting permission on ground. Now, because everywhere, if you go to certain places, you're in people's domain. Everybody, somebody is in charge of that domain, or there are some set of people in charge of that domain. Even if you happen to see kids in that area where you're going to be staying, standing to pilot your drone, you still have to pay homage to some people. This is Africa. This is Nigeria. That's how it's always done. You know, I've had instances of where the first thing you need to do is first of all to look to, because if you're staying somewhere and you're piloting your drone, you know, it could easily be taken for a security threat. And one of the ways not to be taken as a security threat when you're flying your drone in a place like Nigeria is wherever you're going to stand as a drone pilot, you need to observe the people in that area or take permission locally on ground. And each time you take permission locally on ground, you would have to part away with money. And if you try to be smart, if you're smart, you might be able to find your way around some places. But there are some places, usually if it's not an area where you easily reason with people based on your level of exposure, it's better you look for some people to speak to first. If you have to part away with some cash, you part away with some cash and start what you want to do. Because 8 out of 10 times when I was flying my drone, I have to pay somebody money. I have to give somebody money, and I have to. Now this is not, this is not even. You don't even dare do transfer. It has to be cash because if you go the transfer route, if you go the route of making money transfer, then you're gonna pay in through your nose because then you're telling them you have a lot of money. That's why you're saving it in the bank. But in most cases, I make sure I have cash in my pocket before I go out and I have to pay them. But there was one instance, this was supposed to be a public property, which I should have access to, which no one should really disturb me. But so I didn't really bother because I put myself at a distance from where most of these people were thinking, believing they wouldn't really see me or they wouldn't think of disturbing me. But then at some instance, people just came around and wanted to mob me. Like, what are you doing there? What are you doing there? How can you be flying the drone over us? You know, you just air filming us. Like, pick the drone, arrest him, call the police. Take him to the chief security officer. I said, guys, calm down. See, the first thing you need to do for me is hand me back my drone. Hand me back my drone. Then let's talk. So at the end of the day, I was taken to the CSO's office where we actually mediated, and at some point, I was handed over to some guys who were say, okay, he's a reasonable man because I'm a Nigerian. I know most of these cases, the best thing you can do is listen to them, not say your own mind. Listen to them, then try and look for a soft spot where you can enter their mind and bring them and make sure you guys come back to the same level. You don't argue, you don't raise the emotions, you don't aggravate things so that everything does not escalate. So at the end of it, I parted with 30,000 naira so that I could be allowed to go. Even they checked what I was doing, but I was a little bit, I was very smart. When they came around, I knew what it was going to result into, and I already removed the memory card from my drone. So when I showed them my RC2 controller, no, okay, I didn't remove the card from my drone. So when they asked me, okay, what have I done so far? I said nothing because I don't want an instance where they start valuing what I've looking at, considering the value of what I've done against what they were going to get from me. So I switched on my RC controller. Obviously, because it's not connected to the drone, it was not going to show anything. So I just showed them, and they couldn't find anything there. I said, I haven't started when you guys came to mob me, and so You just have to let me go. But they said, no, you're a trespasser, you're trespassing on our property. Actually, we should hand you over to the police, but because you're a reasonable man, let's see how we can sort this out. Yeah, a reasonable man. Yeah. So I don't know really parted with 30,000 naira, to just. And the thing was, if they were to hand me over to the police, I probably would have thought my way out of it, but they're gonna waste your time, and time is what I do not have. So that's one more reason I had to pay my way out of the situation. And so, it just talks about like it's sweet to document African story. It's very sweet. It's sweet documenting African stories, but then it comes at a cost. A lot of things you do, I'll do in United Kingdom for free. Nobody will even bother you. You fly in a drone. So far, you're not standing on someone's property. You're not standing on a private property, and you're not breaking any law. You're not flying um, beyond the stipulated required limit by the law, and you're doing everything. Nobody will disturb you. But this is Nigeria. This is Africa. you know, Telling African story becomes at a cost. Well, am I going to do this again? Definitely, yes. Thank you.